Hello, everybody. Sorry, I've only spoken with my cats a little bit this morning, and that was about it. I hope you're doing good and you're able to go outside more than you used to. What can I tell you about what's new, what is not new, what is whatever? Number one, I'm slowly coming back from the fun, considering my age and my disability. It's very slowly, but I'm finally getting out from it. And hi CJ, I was talking to my best friend. We were talking about the pandemic funk, and it's not really, and I've read quite a few articles about it, and it's not really a depression. It's more like the only thing that I can call it is funk, really. Hi Terry, hi Ramona, hi Jennifer. The thing is that it's not like you're depressed, you're, the normal signs of depression, but it's like you're very blah. Okay, I don't know how to call it otherwise. And to give you an example of how that affects me, let's say that I have something to do, and it doesn't really matter if it's that something is something I like or something I don't like. Hi Anna, hi Jody. But it would be, let me give you an example. Okay, let's say that I came home from grocery shopping, and I did put whatever needs to go in the fridge or freezer. I did put them in the fridge or freezer, but then I have the other staple stuff, like toilet paper, dish detergent, stuff like that. And because I'm already tired from grocery shopping, once I get home and I put the stuff in the fridge and the freezer, and I'm like, okay, let me go lay down a little bit so I feel better. And sorry for my hair, but I just washed it and it's not, I didn't have time to arrange it, so it's going to do whatever it wants to do. And then for the remainder of the afternoon, usually, it would be something like every time I would go through the kitchen, because I usually put all my groceries on the kitchen floor, all my grocery bags, I'd say, oh, I need to put these away. And instead of putting these away, I go straight back on the couch and I, either watch something on YouTube or read something or whatever. Then half an hour later again, I go through the kitchen. Hi Janet, thank you. I go through the kitchen again and it's like, oh, I need to put these away. And instead of putting them away again, I do something else. And this is what I call the pandemic funk. And I know I'm not the only one. I know a lot of artists. Hi Sarah. A lot of artists have complained that their creativity, not necessarily the imagination, Because to give you another example, so I would be laying on the couch watching a movie, and in my mind, because that's how I create all my stuff. I first run it through my mind, and I have that very vivid imagination, and knowing how things are supposed to react and all that. And I would run through my mind a tutorial and all the steps of it and everything. So I'm like, okay, I need to get up and start on that tutorial. And I get up, and instead of coming in the craft room to start on that tutorial. Instead, I go in the kitchen and I get a cup of coffee and I go back on the couch. Thank you, Lydia. Hi, Sonia. So this is the kind of stuff, and trust me, it's been like, what, a year and a half, because I practically started quarantining myself at the beginning of March of last year. And call me, I don't call myself a pessimist, okay? I call myself a realist. But when I saw back in December 2019 the first stories about COVID-19, I was like, okay, this is gonna be bad. So starting January, remember I was telling you that me and my best friend, we used to go every Saturday out to have lunch and then go do a little bit of shopping or go to a park or something. And we love to go to thrift stores and flea markets and stuff like that. And for a while in January and February, I just told her, you know what, with all this thing going on, I am not comfortable going into places where there's a lot of people. So number one, we didn't go do whatever we used to do. And then starting March, and her husband is a cancer survivor too, only his cancer was more recent than mine. And starting March, we both decided that we're gonna stop going out for a while. So yeah, it's been quite some time, you know. Which, to be very honest, this whole lockdown didn't really bother me, because I might be alone, but I'm never lonely, if that makes sense. So the thing with my disability making me more of a stay-at-home and not socializing as much as I used to. And don't get me wrong, I'm not an introvert. I'm more of an extrovert than anything. I'm perfectly comfortable in crowds. I've taught classes even in academic settings. I've given lectures, public lectures, so I have absolutely no problem with people. I don't like going to concerts because it's too noisy and I don't see anything because I'm short. And so this whole lockdown didn't really affect me much emotionally, you know, from the mind frame point of view. And the other thing is that it's not like I don't socialize, because we live in this era of technology. The only thing we still need is holograms. But I socialize online. I video chat with dozens of people a week, you know. And I personally prefer video chatting to typing, because when I video chat, I can do stuff, you know. And not only that, but it gives you this a feeling of you're actually visiting with somebody and actually, you know, interacting and all that. And not only that, but after a while, my hands get tired of typing, so it's much easier for me to video chat. So it wasn't that, but it kind of wears you down with everything that has been going on in the US. And, you know, I don't like to put politics in my lives, but no matter what spectrum on the politics you are, it was super stressful. And add to that the fear of COVID, you know. And I hear some people like, oh, you do this and you want to live in fear for your life, for the remainder of your life. And I say, Dude, if you're not afraid of something that might kill you, then you are genetically defective. Because basic instinct is the survival instinct. So you shouldn't breed. I mean, you know. And it's not like I'm afraid, but I mean, yeah, I am afraid of, and not so much of, maybe not so much of dying, but of the way you die from COVID. I mean, I've been afraid of suffocation my whole life. And it's like I'm not living in fear. Yeah, I am afraid. I don't want to get it, but I'm gonna take all the precautions I can, so I would be as little exposed to it as I can, right? Because it's not like, let me put it this way, falling downstairs can kill you, right? It's very possible. Or falling down a window from a high floor. But it doesn't mean that you're never going to go on stairs or look out the window from a higher floor. You just take all the precautions possible to reduce the risk of that happening. So yeah, thank you, Janet. I didn't tell you to start scanning. My malware bites just told me that. Hey, good things, you don't have a virus. Okay. Nobody asked you. Anyway, so yeah, I started, I guess, you don't realize how much it affects you, but with everything happening since the vaccines have started, and the risk is much reduced now. Of course, I will still wear a mask. Of course, I still avoid going out in crowds and stuff. And with the politics, I'm not saying that they are calm, but they are way lower. I guess slowly, the mind starts. I guess everything that did mess us up, because that's what I was talking with my friend about, is that we all like to feel secure, and everything that we cannot be afraid in control of scares us. Hi, Jot. So there have been so many things that we could not have control over, and it's always, the fight or flight response. So I think that explains a lot of the behavior in society over COVID. It's exactly the fight or flight response. It doesn't matter that sometimes it is illogical. So, but anyway, so as I was saying, I'm starting slowly to get back on track. The other thing that I've been fighting with, I started finding a solution. It works pretty good. But I really need to see, because I had to reschedule my primary care doctor's appointment, because the day I had the appointment we were supposed to have possible tornadoes or big hails or just very strong storms, and just a small divergence. I generally, even if it's just about strong storms, I don't like to be out of the house, because I have one of my cats is a very scaredy cat, and that is Seamus. That's the short hair orange guy who, thunder is okay, but if we ever have that kind of downpour rain, the kind that you feel like somebody's throwing bathtubs full of water against your windows and even hail, he pees himself. I mean, he pees himself, and I know when he's about to, because he starts emitting this very uncatly meow. You know, he wails. So I know that I need to scoop him up and run to the kitchen, because it's much easier to clean tiles than to clean a carpet. So I didn't want him to, you know, in case we had any kind of thunderstorm with strong rain or hail, to pee on the carpet. So now I have to wait till June to see my primary care, and hopefully she will be able to fight for me for the insurance to cover the medication that I found that works for my fatigue. It's actually, I don't know how to call it. And don't get me wrong, this is not medical advice. I do not advise anybody to use it. I started using it after talking to my doctor. It's one. Seamus and Connor, they are 8. And Finnegan is 1.5. So, as I was saying, I talked to my doctor about trying this, because what this is, it's a type of medications that are called eugeroics, and they are generally prescribed for narcolepsy and for mental alertness. And normally Medicare and Medicaid do not cover that, but there are certain, as you very well know, there are certain situations in which an insurance may cover a medication if it is deemed absolutely necessary, and if you have a doctor who is willing to fight for it. And the thing that I found is an over-the-counter pre-metabolic thing. I mean, you take this and within an hour your body synthesizes it into that medication that is on prescription. Hi Karen, hi Adelaide. So it's been working, so hopefully, but of course it's a little pricey, so I can't wait for the to see my primary care doctor to see if she can do something about that. Hi AR. But it really helped me getting back on track. What else? There's quite a few things that are new on the polymer clay, on the whole polymer clay arena, and I hope to be able to show you some tutorials really soon. I hope you liked the last 3. I hope to put the other one up Monday or maybe tomorrow afternoon. I don't know. I'll have to see how good I feel. Now, as I usually do, answer 2 questions, and give me just a second to get here. Number 1 is, so I'm going to start first with the resin. Questions about resin. Number 1 is, this lady asked that she knows that I recommend, I give the green light on the UV resin, on the Chinese UV resin for baking, but can that be done with casting resin? And well, I haven't found yet a casting resin that is not affected by baking. Usually it gets yellowed out, and some brands can get a little bit milky. So if you do something with casting resin, I suggest you do wire wrapping. And there's a lot of artists who give wire wrapping tutorials, and they are absolutely fabulous. I unfortunately cannot really do wire wrapping tutorials. I might try to do one, but I'll have to see how that works, because people who have followed me for a longer time know that I have issues with, I have what's called osteoarthritis of the base of the thumb, and that means I have spurs here, and I go once a year to get steroid shots, but it affects, I cannot, when I try pinching, I have number one, it hurts, and number two, I cannot really control it very good, so it's not that good. So I'm going to have to try. I might give it a try. I used to do a lot of wire wrapping, and it was actually funny that I actually tutored the Native American jeweler into wire wrapping, but anyway. The other question is, can you use alcohol inks to color resin? And I know I've been asked that before, and what I can tell you is, if you talk about UV resin, you have to be very careful about it, because some of the alcohol inks have transparent pigments. Some of them have opaque pigments, and as a general idea, UV resin cures by having UV light going through it. Now, if something is too opaque and the UV light will not be able to go through it, the resin will not cure. And I made some experiments. For example, the actually I forgot which of them, with the piñatas, because I'm not gonna get up and check. You have the Baja blue and the sapphire blue. Well, one of them is transparent and one of them is opaque, and I actually had to throw away a mold because I colored the resin with the opaque one, and it never hardened, and I was never able to actually clean that mold. But you can always use, and remember, I showed you before in my Amazon influencer store the way that I have them. Everything is arranged by sections, and if you go in the resin, you will see that first they are casting resins, and then you will have all kinds of tools, and then you will have pigments for resin, and even some colored resins. Whenever you see, and don't go by what the sellers say on Amazon, because a lot of them will say UV resin in the title, pigment for UV resin in the title, and it's not. But look at the color of the little bottles. If the little bottles are either transparent or, you know, just all kinds of transparency colors, they are not for UV resin. If the little bottles are black, they are for UV resin, because they are not really, they are actually colored resin that you put in your regular resin. And there are some in the other pigments, there are some translucenty ones, and it's the same thing. Look at the color of the bottle. If the bottle is black, it is a pigment that can be used in UV resin. The other thing was, let me see. Well, Adelaide, I suggest the sun, because you can, but your problem with the UV resin is that you need something like tiny Pandora's, what's the name of that? Hold on. Shine something. Give me just a second, because that one is made for deep shine. Okay, so you need something like a deep shine or a UV nail gel, transparent nail gel, top gel. But something else that you can use just plain varnish, and there's a whole bunch of varnishes you can use. I personally, my first to go to varnish is the regular water-based, and it has to be water-based. Excuse me, it has to be water-based, because otherwise it will attack your clay and make it sticky. Get a water-based mean wax. You go to your regular home improvement store, if you have Lowe's, if you have Home Depot, and look for the gloss one, and with that one you only have to let it dry. Well, you can see them and I can show them to you. Karen, let me get on my Amazon. I can switch to give me just a second. Let's switch to the display capture. So in the resin thing, okay, see, these ones are colored resins. Then you can see these ones have black bottles, so they are good for UV resin. These other ones, see how it says transparent, so you can definitely use them. On this one, no, and it says, and actually it says on it AB resin coloring. This one the same, it's got colored bottles. This one as well, colored bottles, while these ones don't. I personally have this one, and I didn't buy it for $37. They just raised the price. I bought it for like $12, $13, but I still put it here. I think this might be a kit though. No, it's just resin. So the ones with black bottles are for UV resin. That is for sure. So you can use any of them with UV resin. As I said, see, like this one, for example, it says that's UV resin colorant. But as you can see, the bottles are transparent. They are not opaque. This one doesn't say anything. This one says UV resin, but considering the color of the bottles, it's definitely not that. So the other thing is that somebody asked me, yes, water-based polyurethane. Yes, any brand that you see on that list, Karen. Somebody else asked me, well, I tried putting all kinds of pigments in my casting resin, and by the time I got around to use it, it was starting to harden. Well, you do not put the pigment after you combine the A and the B. You put the pigment in the base, okay? Let me see if I have anything here close to me. No, let me get in. Let me get on Amazon because it's easier. Let's see. And you'll see that in that list I actually also have some polyester resin. Okay, this one doesn't show. I'm trying to find one with both the A and the B. Because usually it has on it, come on. Okay, I found one. Alright, so see here it says it's the A and the B. One of them is the resin and the other one is the hardener. When you start doing and mixing and whatever, first mix the pigment in the A, only in the A, until it's well mixed there. It's not going to harden, it's not going to do anything. And after it's well mixed, after that, add the hardener. So don't mix your pigment in the resin after you mix the part 1 and part 2. Mix the pigment only in the resin in the part A, and after that add the hardener. Okay, then I got a question about can you sand resin? And actually I need to add some stuff in that resin thing, because, and the other thing was, some of my resin pieces are cloudy and they are not shiny. Yes, you can sand the resin, and I said before, the thing is that you need to go at a much higher grit, at least 10,000. And why your resin can be sticky or cloudy or whatever when, well, number one is if your mold is messed up. And it might not be visible with the naked eye or easily felt with your fingertip. But if you clean your mold really, really good and it still doesn't look very good, that means your mold is compromised and you might need a new mold. The other thing is humidity can and will affect the hardening of the resin, and it might get a little bit milky, it might get, but there are finishing resins. Your best bet, number one, if it is a UV resin, just put it again under the UV light, let it harden properly if it's a bit sticky, and then sand it, as I said, with a higher grit, and then simply put some more resin on top. Your best bet is to have some of that UV gel, nail polish gel, or like the Deep Shine of Tiny Pandora, or depending if you can use if you have a low viscosity resin, you can use it with a paintbrush. And that was the other thing. Somebody was like, how can I clean my paintbrush? Well, my reply to that is you don't. You know, you can wipe it with some paper towel dipped in alcohol, but then wrap it in aluminum foil so the light never touches to it, so it will never cure. It's going to be soft and you can keep using it. Now, you cannot use paintbrush with the 2 parts casting resin. That paintbrush is absolutely, definitely compromised and cannot be used after that. But you can use that with the UV resin. Let me see. And Karen, I don't know, I'm a little bit, honestly, I'm a little bit torn in this. I'm not. Yes, the UV resin has the benefit of not having to wait. And you can see the result right away. But the problem is that you are quite limited with the UV resin because of, I mean, no, I'm not talking about just, coating pendants with, resin. I'm talking about effects that can be done in resin. With UV resin, you're quite limited, and you cannot do a lot of the super gorgeous effects that you can do with casting resin, with 2-part resin. And the other thing is that, and I hope to show it to you sometime soon, because I find that there's another casting resin that not a lot of people talk about, and most people see it mostly as, home decorating, used only for home decorating. And what I'm talking about is that resin, that the amazing resin, that's a 5-minute resin, and it cures in white. It's not transparent, it's not translucent, it's white. The thing is that people don't know that there's been a lot of pigments that have been specially developed to be used on that kind of resin if you don't want to put a sealant on it. But there's a lot of other stuff that works beautifully on that kind of resin, and also you can kind of model it even after you put it in the mold and it's done, and you have a certain time, not a long time, like 10-15 minutes, when it's still flexible enough that you can model it, and if you keep it in that shape, as it hardens, because you have a total hardening time of like 24 hours, I think it is, it will harden in that shape. So I fully intend to do some tutorials with that too. The other thing was, let me see, are some acrylics better than others on polymer clay? Excuse me. Depends what you want to do. If you're talking about regular acrylic paints, nope. Use the cheapest stuff. I have a big plastic tote full of acrylic, regular colors acrylic paints, and I usually just get, whenever I go to Walmart stuff, I go and look what they have for around $1, and then I get a whole bunch of them. But there are some that, again, depending what you're trying to do. Obviously, if you're trying to do something to look like metal, you're going to need metallics. Now, are there metallics that are better than others? Again, it depends on what you're trying to do. Because, for example, the extreme sheen looks better on some stuff, but on the other hand, the regular metallics, the $1 metallics, look better for other stuff. The only thing that doesn't really have A rival is the color shift, because it is a chameleon, and you know it changes color depending on how you look at it. So definitely not. Somebody else asked about, what about the mica powders? Are the eyeshadows as good as the mica powders or not? Again, depends what your intentions are. If you don't mind putting a sealant on your piece, then you can use eyeshadows and fingernail polish, powders, all that you want. If you intend to seal them with something, with a varnish, with resin, with something. Otherwise, even when baked, they might start coming out, and you have to try and see. You have to test and see if it will be coming out or not. The only one that I know of, okay, the only powder that I know of that does bond with the clay and doesn't need sealed is Perfect Pearls. There might be others. I mean, there are thousands of products on the market. I guess if I would spend all my waking hours just experimenting, if I had access to each and every one of them, I would still probably be never able to catch up, because there's always new stuff coming up on the market. So now there's another thing that I do advise you about, and that is, because that's related to another question. It is, do you prefer sanding and buffing for your pieces to be shiny, or varnishing? The only time I varnish is when I need to put a sealant over something, and when it comes to beads, because for my hands it's very hard to hold the beads and sand and buff. But otherwise I prefer, especially when I'm talking about stuff that is like, you know, for gemstones. And why is that? The biggest thing when it comes to professional looking things, the biggest con that the polymer clay has is that it is PVC. So you always risk a very high chance of your piece looking like cheap plastic. So you kind of have to try and avoid anything that might make it look like cheap plastic. So do I prefer varnishing? Again, depends on the piece, but no, I do sanding and buffing whenever I can. And honestly, it was a pain for me before, but since I discovered that, you know, the repurposed pedicure wand, I don't have a problem anymore. So I can sand as much as my heart desires. So, and it does come up pretty. I mean, this is not varnished, this is sanded and buffed, right? To give you an example. And it's pretty much the final sanding and buffing thing, trying to catch the light to give you or this one, this is just at the, yes, I'm working on a new bar jello. This is not the final sanding and buffing, but it is fairly close. So again, I always prefer to do sanding and buffing versus varnishing. But if you do not have the means to do sanding and buffing, go ahead and varnish. And as I said, when it comes to varnishes, my first to go is the water-based Minwax. Now the other question was, what do you do when you don't? You need to seal, but you don't want your piece to be shiny. Honestly, I use the cheapest of all, the Scalpy glaze. Just, I mean, yeah, you can get other glazes that are satin. Yes, they are in the influencer store. The thing when you're talking about a varnish that is satin, that's not supposed to be shiny, the thing that you need to remember is, because a lot of people, I saw a lot of discussion and it's, oh, I got this varnish that's supposed to be satin and it's too glossy. The thing is that when using a varnish that is not glossy, you need to stir it really, really good, because all the little ingredients that make it stay satiny and not turn glossy are on the bottom. So if you don't stir it properly, it's not going to it's going to turn glossy. Okay, so that is really, really important. Give me just another second, because I'm trying to get, I don't know why I made two lists, and on one of them there's like, see that. Well, what's the use of making a list if I got myself see that? Okay. And I even said, see the inbox in Kalyana, but I did not say, a question was asked by, oh yeah, that's it. I'm getting a lot of questions. Adelaide, the one comes with the grits for pedicure. Those grits are not good for polymer clay. You have to buy separately the sandpaper and the little sponge pad, because if you put the Velcro directly on the thing without using a sponge pad, you can only sand flat surfaces, but with the sponge pad you can sand curved surfaces, because the sponge goes like this. So if you look on my influencer store in the sanding and buffing section, you will find the sets of grits. Okay, so what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the other question that I get is, which pasta machine do I prefer? Honestly, I've only had 3 kinds all my life. No, 4 kinds. I'm lying. 4 kinds. So I had, and I was told that I was very lucky, because I had an Amaco. You know, those cheapo ones that you get usually at, and I think I got it from Michael's. And that one lasted for like, goodness, 16 years, 12 years, until somebody helped me clean it using a hunting knife and completely messed up the gear, so it would only go on either on the thinnest or on the thickest. It didn't have any in-between settings. It was still good for, but it was hand crank. Then I got another hand crank that was, I got it from Amazon. It was a little bit more expensive than the Amaco. But little did I know that those little, you know, the things, I forgot how they are called, that go on the rollers and don't allow the clay to come back and roll on itself. They're made out of plastic because it was a pasta machine, obviously, and of course I didn't realize. And after a day of using it, when I cranked it, I heard and then there was something hard in my clay, and those were the fenders that got attacked by the polymer clay and they broke into pieces. And after that, I have an Atlas and I have a Makins that are both with a motor. I got the Atlas 180 and the Makins comes with a 180. What I can tell you, I did need to replace the Makins motor once, and I might sometime have to get another machine actually, because for some reason there's two spots on the rollers that it's got nicks. I don't know from what it got nicks. They're like little nicks, but that leaves line on my clay. And not only that, but when I try to go on the very thin setting, it actually shreds it into, because there are two nicks, and I get it in 3 different shreds. And I keep I normally keep the Atlas for translucents and whites, because it's a pain to clean after you do use colored, and when you try to do something that involves very, very clean, that's when cleaning the machine is a pain. So I'm just keeping the Atlas for the translucents and the whites. I'm sorry, CJ. I hope you can get to fixing it. Now, if you think that you want something that is absolutely specially that you would like me to do, after this is over, if you are in the chat, in the live chat, after this is over, so you can put it in the comments and I can come back to it, or if you see this in replay, leave me in the comments a note of what you would like me to do a tutorial about. And I just have to tell you that I am going to do, and I started actually doing some of the very first videos I did on the channel, because when I did those, I'm redoing them. When I did those, my camera, I had an old camera that wasn't that terrific, and I didn't really have lighting, and I was using just the Windows Movie Maker. So oh, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did, and I sent you guys some of a little bead too. Trish is going to have them in the store soon. If you remember the little raspberry bead that makes it so you do a hammered metal effects, and the ladies who got the prizes got them. But I will be using 1 or 2 in the tutorial. What kind of stains are you talking about? I mean, you can clean most stains, but if you want to really keep them from something, what I use, and this is also something that I use when I try to do something that is very, very thin. These are little like laminate things that come with, and I shall show you, and this I get from the Dollar Tree, so I only get I only pay $1 for them. Let me show you exactly how they look like. I mean, yeah, you can find them in other stores for more money, including in um, on Amazon. So they are called Salon Pass, and you go for the cheapest ones. That's what I go for. They are the pain relieving patches, but they come sandwiched between two of these, so you don't have to get the 20 patch. I think that they're like 3 or 4 in the ones that I get from the Dollar Tree, but they last me for almost a year. See, like here you can see the little laminate thingy. Let me see, this one shows it. No, but this is what I use, and you can use it also if you don't want to. I'm trying to find one that if it shows it better. But as I said, the more patches there are in, the more expensive it will be, but you don't need that many. Let me see, the Walmart, there are 20 patches. You don't really need 20 patches. Let's see how much it is at Walmart. I don't know, like $4, $5. As I said, depending. I see 6 patches are $5, 60 patches are $9.92. So it all depends on how many patches and the side. Be very careful about the sizes of the patches, because you want one that's a little bit larger. You don't want the smaller ones. But as I said, I get these at the Dollar Tree, so they're just $1. I don't know. It never happened that. I know that on some of the clay colors, they are very, very strongly pigmented, especially like the red, and it can stain your rollers, and you need to clean a lot the rollers after you use them. So you'd have like the red is the worst, the ultramarine blue. The red is the worst in all the brands of clay I used. The Premo ultramarine blue can be bad, and the black as well. So it's not much you can do, just wipe the. I thought that you were talking about other stuff, because for example, I did some mess ups when I was experimenting with acrylic crackle and all kinds of effects. At one point I wasn't patient enough. I don't know if I wasn't patient enough, or I didn't I didn't check everywhere. The thing is that I did get a lot of acrylic paint on the rollers, and by the time I freaked out, and by the time I found everything that I needed to remove it, it was dried. So yeah, Cernit metallic is absolutely fabulous. I love it, and I will make more stuff with it. But let's see each other tomorrow. I know I didn't post anything yet for tomorrow, but I promise you that there will be tomorrow at 12:30 Central as usual. I don't know yet what. Probably might be some UV resin or something, but I don't know yet. I need to do, because generally when I get my live subjects at the very last moment, because I just look to see what are people the most interested in. So I'm going to look this afternoon after I come back home, because it's Saturday. So me and my best friend, we are going again out. We decided to grab something to eat and go eat it in the park, because it's a beautiful weather. So thank you for being here. Don't forget to like. If you just found my channel, don't forget to subscribe and to click the little bell button. And I will see you all tomorrow at noon. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Bye.